All right, welcome to another episode of Bagels, Lox, and Dream Cheese. And what I'd like to get into today a little bit is there's a famous word. Again, this is a little bit more for a Jewish audience. If you're not Jewish, you're welcome to join the journey, but consider yourself forewarned. That being said, there's a famous word. It's very common when we get into conversations, and that word is mitzvah. And it's one of my favorite words to kind of dispel. There's a lot of interesting misconceptions around the word, so I'd like to take this opportunity to dispel that. And we're going to call the segment is when a good deed is not a mitzvah. So that being said, if that's the teaser, then what are we talking about? So a mitzvah, how would you translate it? Well, I kind of gave it away. Most people, I would say 9 out of 10 people, depending on who you ask, if you go up to your average Jewish person, you ask them, what does the word mitzvah mean in English? Most common response you'll get, survey says, a good deed. Now, if you happen to ask, if most of the people that you ask are observant, the number one answer you'll get is a mitzvah means commandment. So what's interesting about these two translations in English is that although both are true, neither are particularly accurate. So what do I mean? For a mitzvah to be a good deed, yeah, but interesting, there are many mitzvot where we have to do things that might not seem good. For example, there is there are certain enemies that you have to go to war with. And some people might argue that that's not a good thing. So is it a good deed? It's not a good deed. Well, it's a mitzvah to do that, but in certain situations. So is that a good deed? And then the more problematic issue with translating as a good deed, again, that's a connotation. It's not a literal translation. So that's why most people, again, especially if they're observant, and you ask them, what does mitzvah mean? They'll tell you a commandment, because there's a commander and a commandee, and we're being commanded to do something. Yeah, that's nice, but there's so much missing. So while semantically a commandment is closer to what a mitzvah really is, but it's still missing that essence. And so I'd like to help share with is when we look into the Talmud and we look into Jewish mysticism, it offers us a much richer understanding of what a mitzvah is. And actually it's very timely considering what's happening in the world today. And that translation is mitzvah has the semantic equivalent to sabta v'chibur, which means connection. So really when we're doing a mitzvah, we're making a connection. Now that opens a whole interesting world of possibilities, because I want to get connected within myself. I want my mind and my heart to be aligned. I want them to be together rather than them being separated. Right? I know what I need to do. I just got to get the emotional drive to do it. Or maybe it's the reverse. I might have a desire to do something, but I know that's really not the best thing that I should be doing or what's important to be doing now. So that's where I want that alignment. So when a mitzvah helps create that connection, that alignment. Another thing I want to be connected to is the rest of humanity. And that is through a mitzvah, whether it's through tzedakah or many of the other ma'asim tovim, many of the actions that we do, it allows us to connect between ourselves and through the rest of humanity. So it's making that connection. But one of the most mind-boggling things that we can do through a mitzvah is it allows us to connect our essence to the essence of the Creator. And if we think about that for a second, it's really powerful, because when we talk about a creation, so if we take a rock, we take a plant, an animal, and a human being, on a certain level, they all have a commonality, and that is that they're a creation. When we talk about the Creator, it's a different ballgame. There's the Creator, and then the creation. And there's a huge gap there that, how do we close that gap? How do we make that connection? So maybe an analogy would be, if we were able to have a conversation with, say, someone like Bill Gates, or earlier in the day, someone like Albert Einstein, like, what would we say? What could we possibly share that would be of interest? And that's just with another human being. maybe replace those examples with your favorite celebrity. You're now face to face with your favorite celebrity. How would you speak to them? What would you talk about that would possibly be of interest? There's a gap there. Now, if that gap there is between two human beings, how much more is between ourselves and the Creator? So that's the beauty of a mitzvah. A mitzvah not only allows us to be connected within ourselves, not only allows us to be connected with the rest of humanity, but allows us to connect that infinite, seemingly gap, which is between the Creator and the creation, and brings it together. So that's a little bit of the concept of. Hope that helps. Please reach out and Twitter, Facebook, TotaLiving BSD.